Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I am feeling incredibly thankful to be speaking today with Vanessa Joy. She is a world renowned wedding photographer, a Canon explorer of light, who's known for her work photographing weddings, personal portraits, personal branding shots, as well as her public speaking at conferences such as WPPI, Shutterfest, and Imaging USA, just to name a few.
A few.
She's here today to speak a little bit about her class, and we're just so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us, Vanessa.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I also wanted to remind our audience that you can drop in your questions. Any kind of questions, we'll field them and try to answer them. And yeah, this is your chance to get to interact with your speakers and hear a little bit more about Imaging USA and their lives. So tell us a little bit more, just starting out with your class, lighting for every part of the wedding day.
Every time I think of my class, I have to laugh at myself because I don't know who I was trying to impress by deciding to live demo shoot every single part of the wedding day in front of everybody in the 90 minutes or whatever I have. So like I am going to set up a lay flat, show you how to light that, not to mention a dark auditorium where I just have to mimic the natural light I would potentially have, and set up the ceremony where I'm going to make you all dance. Like you're going to dance so I can show you
Cool.
what a dance floor setup looks like, and then couples portraits. And then if it all goes well, we'll have time to edit and put together the entire album as well. So crazy.
Wow.
I don't know what I was thinking.
So we'll try to recreate as much of what a wedding feels like. It sounds like almost within that class. We don't get to have the awkward, family dynamics and the drunk people dancing, but we get to have parts of that in the
Little
class.
bits.
Little bits and pieces. So student takeaways, someone signing up for this class, I believe it's like an 8 to 9:30 class, like you said, an hour and a half.
Mhm.
What are they gonna walk away having learned? Like, what should you come prepared with? Who's this
Well,
class for?
it's for everyone, because a beginner photographer is going to feel like they're drinking from a fire hose, quite frankly,
Yeah,
because I am
yeah.
not going to really go over posing and what I'm doing as far as anything but lighting, because I want to concentrate on the lighting, why I choose to light in a way that reflects the brand and the promise that I've given
Mhm.
the clients that are hiring me. So you're going to expect to see the whole thought process behind lighting, which really is the first thing that I think about when it comes to a wedding day. I'm not really looking at the backgrounds. I'm not looking at the little
Mhm.
details before I look at the actual lighting. So that's what's going to affect my image the most. That's what's going to affect the final product that I give my clients the most. So you're really going to see the brainchild behind all of
Mhm.
that and what I do. And ideally, I'm not going to just show lighting for my style of photography either. Like you
Mhm.
might think, oh, I want to go see wedding photography lighting, but I don't have Vanessa's bright and vibrant style. Well, I'm going
Mhm.
to do bright and vibrant, but I'm also going to throw in some dark and moody. And we're going to throw in how to photograph with on camera flash or off camera flash. I'm going to mimic what I would be doing with natural light using flash, because we will be inside and there is no natural light. But you're
Mhm.
going to see a lot of different photography styles in addition to just mine. So I really hope it relates to everyone and everyone's going to get something out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was watching in one of your videos, you talk about you have your camera and then you have a backup camera when you're shooting a wedding. Are you are you doing that in your class, or I'm just curious, is that something that you do in the context of that class, have use different cameras?
I will use one main camera for that
Uh-huh.
class. I really do only use one camera. I'm not a double shooter. I know a lot of people like to do that. It's just never been me. I'll change a lens, and especially now with the new lenses that are out,
Yeah.
the Canon just released that RF 24 to 105 f 2.8. That's just a beast for weddings. I use the 28 to 70 f2, which is just a beautiful lens. It's a zoom that behaves like a prime,
Wow.
and I just don't change lenses that much. So you're gonna see me shoot with one camera.
Okay.
You'll see what lenses I like to shoot for the certain circumstances or lighting, and obviously what types of flashes I'll use as well.
Wow. And like this, just out of curiosity, how heavy how heavy is this camera that you're holding?
I guess, I don't know. I know the lens is 3 pounds. I feel like the
Okay.
lens might be heavier than the camera itself.
Whoa. I didn't know that you had to, like, have guns as a photographer, like, some, like,
You
strong arms to carry these
you are a
things, but
pack mule, just a
yeah,
total pack mule.
yeah, you're carrying a lot of stuff. Um, goodness, so thank you for covering that, the class, it sounds really exciting. I definitely will make sure to stop by as I'm covering social media at the conference and peep into your class. But I'm kind of jealous that there are people that get to sit in on the whole thing because I'm fascinated by wedding photography. I think it's really cool. And I love your backstory. I find it really interesting. You have 5 degrees and you were a Spanish teacher for a short period of
Yes.
time. Like, what brought you back to photography? What drew you to teaching again? Because you mentioned that really the Spanish teaching really wasn't your gig. What brought you back to teaching again?
I think and it's gonna sound bad, I don't mean it to sound bad, but I had gone to a class at a convention,
Mhm,
and it wasn't imaging, but I had gone and was really looking forward to learning the how-to behind this person's photography. I don't
mhm,
even remember who it was, but I just loved their work, and I wanted to see how they did it, and nothing really against that teacher, they just didn't know how to teach a concept. They knew how to talk about it, but they
mhm,
didn't know how to teach it.
mm,
So because my background, I have a degree in teaching among 4 other ones. I know how to teach a concept. I know how to take someone from never picking up a flash to becoming proficient in a very short amount of time without, over confusing them or over explaining certain
mhm.
things about it, in a way that hinders them. So I decided, you know what? Maybe I could try this. I certainly didn't start by teaching Flash, that's for sure. I taught marketing,
Okay.
because marketing was something that I knew how to do pretty well from the get-go.
Your background in marketing comes from what exactly? Was it something that you studied in school particularly? I can't remember.
It wasn't. It was actually I took a class, and I can't even remember what class it was. It was some had to have it, like, it was not an elective. It was something I needed to
Okay.
take. And the teacher was an adjunct, and she was her full-time job was the one of the heads of marketing at the
Mm,
franchise company Lawn Doctor, like the
okay.
Green Thumb company. And she I don't know, liked me, or maybe she mentioned that there was an internship opportunity at her company, and I took it and I got the job. So I worked in a very large marketing department for a pretty large company. They have over 400 franchises at the time. And I learned marketing there, which ironically is probably the best thing I did in my college education. Had nothing
Wow.
to do with the degrees or the classes I was taking, but had to do with the connection that I made that taught me that type of marketing.
Wow. Because I remember you speaking about the importance of as a newbie to, wedding photography and stepping into this niche, you had the opportunity to work with your high school mentor, your high school teacher,
I did.
who you made this connection with, and then kind of was taken on. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
I mean, it this is gonna sound funny. So this was back before certain events led to not being able to just walk onto school campuses anymore,
Yeah.
and I was taking photography at my local community college because I went to community college first before the university, and I had to cut a mat, like, the mats that go around a picture before you frame it, and I loved cutting mats. It was weirdly one of the things I loved to do, as I like the math behind it, I like being precise, and
Yeah.
I went to go cut this mat on the mat cutter that the college had, and it was horrible. I couldn't cut it. I couldn't cut the darn mat. So I had spoken to a friend of mine who had also graduated, and she's like, "Well, if you just go to Mr. Haynes' class." He's retired now, so I can tell the secret. If you go to There was a back door on his classroom. You just go there and bring him a Dunkachino. Like, he'll let you in and he'll let you use this stuff. Which, now that I look at it, it's like, that's probably wasn't the correct use of tax dollars or resources, but that's what we did. So I went back and, of course, came with my photos that I had taken and was submitting. And he saw them and was like, "Do you want a job? Do you want to do this?" Like,
Mhm.
sure. And he hired me to assist him and then eventually shoot for him. And then I did marketing for him
Mhm.
and really boosted his business before I started my own.
Wow. And I love that story. Angela's saying in the chat, "I love that story.
Yeah.
I love that story too." Um, you you talked about this misconception that I think a lot of people within the creative fields come up against, which is that this career, this thing that brings them joy, is not going to lead to like any serious like outcome. Like photography isn't a serious career choice.
Yeah.
Why is
I
that
thought
so
that.
common? And like, what do you say in response to that?
I mean, I think it's a perfectly logical thing to
Mhm.
think. I thought that. That's why I have so many college degrees. That's why I became a Spanish teacher, because I thought that photography wasn't a real job. It didn't give you health insurance. It certainly didn't give you a 401k. It doesn't give you big corporate stability or any of that.
Yeah.
But so it makes sense. And, it's artsy. And you certainly see plenty of starving artists out there. So it's easy to be like, "Oh yeah, that's cute. You take pictures, everybody takes pictures on their phone." Like,
Yeah.
I don't blame anyone who thinks that.
Yeah.
But then it's funny, I still have people that, don't particularly know me that well. They'll be like, "Oh, you're a wedding photographer. Oh, so you only work on the weekends." And okay, after me wanting to punch them in the face, I tell them what a full-time job it really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And on top of being a full-time job, you're a mom. So you speak about this like level of this added layer of being a businesswoman,
Yeah.
which I think is so cool. Obviously, we need support. Um, all of us need support when we're it, choosing this career. But I found that really beautiful how you kind of were very open about your fears in kind of becoming a mom, but you
Yeah.
yet look at where you are now.
Yeah, it's not easy. I don't think
Mhm.
it's gonna be any easier at any point. It's,
Yeah.
it's pretty difficult, and it's unique, I think, to a lot of women because we have this thing, I don't know that dads deal with it as much,
Mhm.
called mommy guilt,
Mhm.
and dads don't have daddy guilt. That's not a phrase. So we have this, like, extra burden that we give ourselves on
Mm.
top of the actual work that we need to do. So it's not particularly fun. I have to admit that, but we can get it done. You can. You just have to find, like you said, all that support around you. And I have everything from my parents who live across the street to actually friends of ours that used to live with us back in New Jersey, literally staying with us right now, and hired help too. I have
Yeah.
people that I pay to come do stuff around the house so that I can either pay attention to my work or pay attention to my family.
Mhm. And what was I going to say? I think when we're talking about mentorship a little bit, and recently I was glancing at your Instagram page and kind of like what a dream it is that I get to have this guided trip where I'm taking photographers to Croatia with a model, drinking wine, teaching this
Yeah,
teaching this group of people how to shoot these different scenarios. It does sound like a dream. It does sound like a dream.
it is. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
We just did Italy last month, and it was so phenomenal. Everyone had a great time despite me actually being sick most of the time. Not even sick. I wish I could say I was sick. I just lost my voice and had a violent
Oh,
cough. that had nothing to do with any illness whatsoever. Like permanent problem, as you can still hear it in my voice.
Oh, that's so
But
tough.
yeah, but even despite that, the crew we had was so great. It was the age range was wild. It was like I think the youngest person was 28 and the oldest was 75. And I had everyone from I've never picked up a camera at all, ever, to full-blown hobbyists, full-blown professional photographers. And they all got along so well to the
Aw,
point like they could like make fun of each other, which I always feel like that's the
that's the
ultimate
best.
friendship. You can make fun of each other.
Yes.
And we're still in a group chat together. Like we talk to each other almost every day. And more than half of them are coming to Croatia. Like there are, I
Oh,
think, 5
cool.
spots left in the Croatia trip. But yeah, most of them are from the Italy trip. And that's how you can just say, like, obviously it was awesome if more than half of them are coming back.
Yeah, they had a really good time, it sounds like.
Yeah,
I wish I
it
could
really
tag
was.
along.
It was so, so, so much fun.
And, like, I'm just kind of thinking about maybe the person who isn't a wedding photographer who's, hearing this and thinking, "Oh, maybe I should stop in." Um, I guess kind of like, what are some of the pros and cons of wedding photography? If you could just name a few, I know that could probably be an entire
Yeah.
other conversation. But,
Well,
like,
you
what
know,
drew you
if
to
you're
it?
coming to Imaging USA and you're looking at my class and think immediate check off, like, oh, I'm not a wedding photographer.
Yeah.
The truth is, you are, because wedding photography encompasses all photography. You
Mm,
are portrait photographer, you're still
mhm.
life photographer, you're environmental photographer, landscape photographer, architectural photographer. So, no matter what kind of photography you do, it's done in weddings. Maybe not bugs, maybe not macro bugs, but macro photography for sure of the
Oh,
rings. So, if you do any one of those things, you'll probably enjoy sitting in my class, aside from the fact that every lighting scenario that I'm going to teach is going to apply to any of the things that you photograph. Mine just happen to be dressed up in a dress and veil.
absolutely, it very, very much applies. Um, I'm looking at our questions too in the chat, and there are a lot of really good ones, so I might just, read some. But Jamel is asking, "How do you pack for a destination wedding?" Um, how do you do
Lightly.
that?
You pack very lightly. No,
Lightly.
I do a lot of destination weddings because I am dually located. So I can't say bi-coastal, but I fly back and forth between New York and New Jersey and Texas constantly.
Wow.
So I have businesses in both places. So I'm basically doing a destination wedding at least once a month. In addition to photographing, I've just photographed a wedding, second shot with a friend of mine in Lake Como. I should be going to France this year. I did a tea party in London recently. Attended the wedding day, but did the tea party in London with a friend of mine for a friend of mine. And packing for it, my goal is to get all of the breakable stuff, so lenses, lights, and cameras
Mhm,
in and lithium batteries in my carry-on
mhm.
case, and then everything that's not as breakable, light modifiers, light stands, and lay flat props and mats and everything that gets checked. And
Okay.
my clothes, I don't know. Sometimes I have clothes; they go somewhere.
No room for clothes. You just buy them when
No
you
room for clothes.
um,
Yep.
someone writes, "Mom guilt is real." It's like, yeah, I imagine it really is. Someone else wrote, "Always bring fresh blades to the mat room." Oh, that's
Yes.
cute.
Yep. So true. I really should
Yeah,
have brought my own blades, but
we
I
need
knew where the
sharp
good ones are,
knives.
so I went there.
Let's see what else. Oh, I like this imaging. We wrote, "What is the biggest lesson you've learned recently about photography?"
Ooh,
Just,
the
I guess
biggest
that's
le
a big
I
one,
don't
but
even know. I mean, the biggest lesson is that it just keeps moving. You know, there's no point that you are going to master photography because if you sit there and master photography, some new technological thing is going to come out. Like we're all dealing with AI and how to use it right now.
mhm.
That's always the biggest lesson for me is at no point can you rest. At no point can you just decide, "Oh, I'm here. I'm on top." In fact, I think I work harder now at the budget I had and how much I charge. I work so much harder now marketing than I ever did before.
Mm. And I have a question about that kind of in pricing your work. I know that
Mhm.
obviously your pricing will determine kind of the types of clients that you're receiving. Have you ever played around, like, do you play around with pricing and kind of see how that changes the demographic of people that you're bringing in, or what is that like a person at your stage and of your career? Like, how much are you like shifting your pricing, or is that
It's always shifting
okay?
because it shifts. I have a rule, and somebody told me this rule a while back that anytime someone books your highest package, it's time to raise your prices. And I keep that in mind because it's just a very easy signifier of where you are in your journey and
Mhm,
where when you're ready to move up. So I am constantly adjusting. I'm also adjusting the things that I offer, like
mhm,
drone photography or film photography. And for me, I want to charge for some things, but don't want to charge for others. So,
mm,
film photography, I decided I wanted to do that for me. I'm not even going to offer it. I don't want to be beholden to having to shoot film if the day doesn't call for it. So, I didn't want to charge for something that I couldn't guarantee be
mhm,
based on whatever factors. Usually it's time. If I don't have time to sit there and throw some film in, then I'm not going to.
yeah,
Um, but things like drone photography, I actually want all of my clients to have drone photography, but I have to pay more for that because I'm not going to do it. I have a drone specialist that comes and does it. So, okay, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars more. So I'm
yeah,
raising all of my packages and probably not that much more because not every wedding can have
uh-huh,
a drone involved. Like if I'm in New York City, like there's just no drone. Like, no, or if it
yeah,
happens to rain on the day, I can't fly the drone. So I, raise it by a little bit to cover what my costs I think will be for the year.
mhm.
And then every chance I get to do drone, I do drone.
And your husband is a, videographer, like a wedding videographer,
Hmm.
isn't that right? Or
He
also
does
a
some
wedding.
weddings, but he mostly does corporate work now and a
Okay.
reality show here in Austin.
Oh, cool. So your home
Hmm.
base is Austin.
It is, yes.
Okay, okay. I love Austin, Texas. It's a
It's a
wonderful
great,
place.
great
Yeah,
place. I wish I moved here sooner.
it's gorgeous. Um, someone wrote, "What would you tell your past self if you could when you started your business? Is there anything you would have done differently?"
I'm pretty happy with my path that I chose. I think
Mhm,
the only thing I would do differently is start emphasizing being a full service photography studio right at the beginning instead of starting out as a shoot and burn, which
okay.
I think we almost all start out as a shoot and burn studio. But
Mhm,
when you become a full service photography studio, there's just something one, you definitely raise your bottom line, but there's something extremely fulfilling about giving your clients printed products. And when you hand those products to them that they're going to last versus when I hand them like, I don't know, a little USB or like, oh, here's your cloud
stick, yeah,
link. uh, They're going to die a digital death. And
yeah,
it's very unfulfilling when you know those photos are going to get lost on a phone versus when you hand them a product and also they pay you a lot of money. So it's like, thanks for all $10,000. Here's your air. Like it's so
yeah.
much more fulfilling to hand them or ship them a final product that they get to touch and feel and hang on their walls. And it's so, so fulfilling. So I wish I did that a little bit sooner than I did.
Sooner. About how
Mhm.
far into kind of, being a more full-time photographer was that you made that transition?
It was always like I knew it was around because I had worked for the other photographer for 5 years and he did albums. So I knew it was a thing, I guess. Like I think a lot of photographers don't realize how impactful products are for their business and for their clients. But I always knew. I just kind of didn't make it mandatory. And now I do. I will
Interesting.
not shoot a wedding without giving you an album. Like you cannot hire me to shoot and burn anything.
I noticed that about your website. I thought that was
Mhm.
really cool. It makes total
Yeah.
sense. It makes total sense to me. Um, another thing another thing that cracked me up, what on a video of yours was you're listing all of the, like, the worst worst things that have happened to you at weddings. And you mentioned locking your keys in your car with
Oh
all of
my
your gear in there.
god. That was
It sounds
so bad. I
terrible.
forgot about that until you just told me.
Oof.
Oh, that was bad. I feel like it was in Point Pleasant, New Jersey. We had gone to the beach, one of the beaches, and it's Jersey weddings, man. There is something painfully special about them. They love to go to all the places. In Texas, you pick your place. You get ready
Mhm.
there, you get married there, you take your photos there, you have your last dance there. In Jersey, in New York, it's like, let's get married at my house in Brooklyn. And then we're going to go to Jersey, the Newark Basilica, to do our wedding ceremony. And then we'll take pictures maybe in Central Park. And then we'll have our reception down in Shrewsbury, New Jersey, which I swear that has actually happened.
Do you
So
charge more for all of this?
I I do and I don't. I don't actually charge more, but because you're spending like 4 hours driving, like my coverage is consecutive. Like you have to hire me for more hours on the day when you do things like that. So like here in Texas, I could get away with or people could get away with hiring me for just 8 hours. But in New York, sometimes it's like you need 14.
Yeah.
So it's big. Anyway, so this was one of those things. The ceremony was somewhere. They wanted to do pictures on the boardwalk. And then we were going to the reception. And I got my stuff, went to, no, I realized it before we even took pictures on, like, I shut my trunk and went, oh, crap. And they were already waiting for me. So I didn't miss a beat. I immediately texted my husband and texting him went and shot everything I needed to shoot. It was probably all of 15 minutes. My second shooter was there. Thank God that he had his car. I'm like, hey, can I jump in your car? Because I locked myself out of mine. And we just went to the reception, which was in Freehold, which is like half an hour away from where my car was. And meanwhile, like my husband and my dad ended up dealing with the car situation, brought me the rest of my gear because all I had was one camera and one lens. And it ended up working out, and the couple never knew it. That's the key. That's the key to
That's
weddings. Your couple,
yeah,
they can't see you sweat. They're only allowed to see you smile.
that's wild. It's such a client-facing thing, and there's already so much tension. Like, weddings are just known to be
Yep.
intense days, so I it
They are
that
long and
cracks me
all the
up,
pressure in the world.
all the pressure. So you're just trying to remain calm. Thank goodness your
Yeah.
husband was there to with that spare key.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
goodness
Thank God.
gracious.
Thank goodness. And this was before like Uber. So I mean, it
Yeah,
wasn't totally. I feel like Uber may have just started, but I couldn't like just grab a taxi. There were no taxis around there. Thank
no.
God my second shooter had his car.
Yeah, I guess a similar question related in the chat. Someone wrote, "What's something that's thrown you off or craziest moment during one of your wedding shoots that you had to quickly recover from, besides the locking your keys in your car?" I want to hear another. I want to hear one more.
It just happened, and it didn't necessarily throw me off as much as I wanted to punch myself in the face for it. And I'll probably tell this story. I have the picture that goes along with that. I just have to ask the bride's permission to share it. But I was the bride was done with her hair and makeup, and we're in the getting ready, and it was time for her to, oh, she put her dress on. She had
Mhm.
her dress on, and I always ask this, like, oh, who do you want to put your shoes on? Who do you want to put your veil on? Who do you want to, like, because
Oh,
sometimes they want different people to come in and be a part in the picture. And I said, who do you want to put your veil on? And she burst into tears. And I'm like, what did I say?
oh
And then
no.
her maid of honor came over, and she was like, what's she may have heard me say the who do you want to put in your veil? And she came over and she's like, you need your mom right now, don't you? And her mom wasn't at the wedding. I don't think she ever told me if that was elective or passed away. I think she had passed away. Um, Usually, I mean, I always ask these things, but it didn't connect that when I asked, who do you want to put in your veil, that it would be such a trigger. And it was. And she just broke down into tears. Um, but I did get the most beautiful picture of her crying, hugging, like, face to face, her bridesmaid or maid of honor, and it was a beautiful photo. I just have to ask if I can share it since it's so sensitive, but
Oh my gosh.
man, that was my fault. She's crying, it's my fault.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't I mean, that's just such a, like, probably a question that you're so used to asking at this
all the
point.
time.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Wow. And how that's
Yeah.
it's I love I love how even within that though, you're like, "I can use this. I can capture this photo." I'm
Yeah.
sure it's really beautiful.
It is. It really is a beautiful moment, and, while it is sad, that is a part of her wedding day, for better or for worse.
Yeah,
That is a real part that made her feel something.
yeah. It sounds like the interpersonal, like, relationships that you have with clients and I also noticed you mentioned that on the year anniversary of your couples, you mention them on social media or you post something related to
I
that?
I email them. Sometimes I'll mention them on social media, but I'm not that good at that part.
'Cause I mean,
I Yeah, I do try to email them, or mention them if I can. To me, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, so I hit various stages of burnout along the way, and I have found that the best way to do your best work, but then also to not hit burnout when it comes to weddings, is to just emotionally invest yourself in your clients, in their day, in the things that are important to them. You're going to do a better job capturing it. Um,
yeah.
and it prevents the burnout. So I try to be there.
And then, of course, being careful that these couples don't divorce before you before you
I
outwardly
stop Yeah, I stop emailing them usually at the 3rd year, because they're pretty good marriage rates until then. Um, yeah, I've emailed people by the 1st year, and they were, sadly already divorced.
yeah, this is the, like,
Yeah.
the other side of it too. The, like, having
You
tact
can
and being
have Yeah, you
careful.
can have repeat clients, but you don't want to.
That's not what you're not in that
Mm.
business. We're not
Mhm.
we'll take new
Yep.
clients. Um, well, it kinda looks like we're running at time. I again, thank you so, so much for joining us. It's been so lovely to pick your brain a little bit more and
Yeah.
share more about you to, our audience. I just wanna remind everybody who's watching that, our early bird pricing for the All Access Imaging USA Pass, that ends December 8th. So, if you wanna come to imaging and you wanna see this class and a as many other classes as possibly could fit into your day, like, you need to sign up now, you need to register, and you also need to book your hotel, which they're quickly booking up. Um, but you can get all of the details in the links below and find out more about Vanessa and download the app, start building your schedule. I don't know, start thinking about what you're going to pack. If you're going to pack light or pack heavy. But we can't wait to see you. And I can't wait to bump shoulders with you, Vanessa, and some of our amazing instructors. It's going to be a blast.
It's always a good time at imaging,
Yeah,
always.
it truly is. Well, that's all. That's all today. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks
Goodbye,
so much for
everyone.
having me.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye, everyone.